We'll call this meeting of the Hanson Conservation Commission to order. As posted, the meeting is now open under the State Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Hanson Local Bylaw, Article 2-13, Section 5. This opening statement will apply to this is conducted at this meeting. And, as usual, this meeting is being audio recorded for the record. Starting on the far left, roll call please.
President Roll. Dave Hadfield.
Sharon LaPorte.
Joe Clemens.
Lon Woodward. Frank Skellinger.
We have 4 of our 5 sitting commissioners present, which is a quorum. We will proceed with our meeting. The agenda, the very first thing on it is to review the minutes of March 15th. Is that March 15th? Yes,
Yeah.
that's because there was a need to not have a meeting early in April. So let's proceed to that minutes review we made. This was the meeting where we commenced the rather complex review of and hearing for the Lakeside Road project. Is open to hearing the motion regarding corrections, other actions on the minutes. I know when you listen to the tape, you realize it's not an erased section, it's just a very quiet time.
Motion to accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the minutes as written for March 15th. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 4-0-0. Minutes are approved. Thank you. On our original schedule for the agenda was the 3 hearings for Lakeside Road. And what I understand is that there's been a request by the applicant for a continuation. And as far as the date and time for that, that probably depends on our decisions regarding the May meeting schedule. Speaking just for myself, the month of May, I have a meeting, a different meeting on the second Wednesday of May, the 10th. So it suggests to me that we could go, as usual, the first and third Wednesdays. There's, I think, 5 Wednesdays in May, but I'm interested in other people's thoughts about our May schedule. Because the very first week of May, we have town meetings, and it would be great if it happened either in 1 or 2 nights, so that the Wednesday, the 3rd, would be available.
I had my usual cemetery commission on the first Wednesday night of May, and since there are not a lot of members, I didn't have to show up.
Oh.
for that.
Lots of things to consider.
That's just me.
By the way, the meeting on the 10th that I would be at is also in this room, so it would be difficult to have both of them on the 10th.
But if everybody else is okay with the third.
Other members commenting on perhaps meeting the 3rd and the 17th of May? Mr. Heel, any thoughts? Then I think it seems by consensus we are scheduling our May meetings for May 3rd and May 17th.
Yeah.
Wednesday the 3rd and Wednesday the 17th. So, that being said, they were looking for, we are told, for the second meeting in May. So the Lakeside Road project is being continued to the 17th. My general sense is we should act on that now, just to be sure. So, do I hear a motion to continue the Lakeside Road hearing, which is open, to May 17th at 7 p.m.?
So moved.
Moved and seconded to continue that plan. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? 4-0. So that's continued. There was that was our schedule from 7:17, 7:30. Timing-wise, the next item on our agenda was the 7:45 appointment with parties who are not yet here. So we do have other visitors and other business. 1 or 2 things have come up that were not exactly known when we printed the agenda, but I think it's within our rights to reasonably consider them. So let's move to this gentleman right here. We have, I think, a question about the potential minor modifications to some plans for Woodman Terrace.
Yes.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. For the record, Terry McGovern from Scenic Land Surveyors, and I would probably think of this as a field change based on some advice from the builder and the tree clearer out there. We had been before the commission last year regarding the notice of intent to take the house down. We got the chair. And there are 2 fairly large pine trees that sit at the top of the banking behind the house. I have them shown on the planting sketch that we've provided. It's slightly bigger than 24 inches. The property owners are realize that those trees are staying. Certainly a little bit alarmed because I gather something happened down the road that has to do with the renovation.
A lot of things have happened with our pine trees all across the land lately.
And the first thing that I advised them, quite honestly, is I said, I've had trees picked in my own yard. I've had Elliott tree pick about 15 trees out of my yard a few years ago. And I said, they'll come in and they'll crane them once the house is down, but you have to be aware that you're going to cut them off flush and you're not going to touch the stones. The stones will have to remain flat. They understood that. I did have a conversation with Frank about it, and he suggested we also propose to put some trees back in that area. So I'm showing on my revised sketch that we'd like to put some holly trees in that area, which will help provide some habitat. They're not house killers, but they'll certainly blend in well. I also added some additional creeping juniper, which we've mentioned before, is helping to stabilize the very top of that bank. We've shown 8, I beefed that up to 12. There is, as we've noted previously, a very small interlocking retaining wall in that area that helps. It will help as well.
Help stabilize.
Yeah, at the top of that bank. And the area beyond that will be grass once it's done. You know, it's certainly open to more mitigation in terms of plantings, but, you know, hopefully by putting something in there that also provides habitat, we get a little bit of the benefit out of that as well. But they're well aware that, you know, if they crane the trees out, they don't touch the stumps. They don't disturb beyond the limits of clearing originally adhered to.
Maybe our agent can just put on the record the things that were discussed in terms of sequence of the different parts of the project, which now includes perhaps this, and what's proposed is, the first thing is the old house is coming down.
It's gone.
It's down,
Oh, okay.
yes,
Okay.
it's already taken away.
The next step, are there any other steps before this, or is this imminent?
The trees come down next,
Okay, so that is
That's
imminent.
going to be the next thing.
Okay.
and then Mr. Dyer is going to go to work
Yeah.
on the grading.
Questions, comments, thoughts from any of our commissioners? We have it, the photo was very helpful, and the diagram is also very helpful. And the slope is very steep.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is.
And in my personal opinion, we're rolling discussion on here, it's understandable that trees of that size, so close to, let's say, a sensitive receptor, like the house, and for that matter, the pond and the bank, if a tree were to go over in the northeaster, it would go more or less west towards the pond, one would hope. But who knows where the roots would go, probably making that, so, unless it's snapped off, which would also be a mess. Again, summarizing what we've heard, it's being proposed that these be, with the standard procedure of probably turning the tree into a toothpick and then topping it and crane, you lifting it out either piece by piece or whatever. These wouldn't be rolled into the pond and
No.
paddled off anything. Okay. The stumps would be cut essentially flush to the ground, and any replacement plantings could be augured or otherwise inserted maybe sort of between the fingers of the stump, so to speak.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a, and even in the picture, it shows a little bit of an area on either side of those steps where you could hand dig a small hole for a small holly tree to grow in there, to start to grow. You don't need anything huge to do that, or not like a hand auger.
Yeah, I see the notes here on the site drawing. It refers to a few species. It talks about red oak. It talks about rhododendron. You mentioned creeping juniper.
Many of those were proposed previously to the northeast side of the house.
Yeah.
Where the septic.
So it would seem to me, and I've heard a little bit of informal discussion about it, when one is looking for candidate species to put on a place like this, a very sensitive thing, it could make a lot of sense to look around and see what's successfully growing right nearby in that area. And because the tree hasn't come down yet, the planting hasn't been done yet, I don't know what I would suggest specifically, but we could probably figure out very, very shortly and communicate that through the office. So, open to thoughts, questions, or anything else?
My only, I'm sorry, go ahead. Is you're gonna cut them right off at ground level, and that's acceptable, that's...
Well, the idea is to not disturb the roots, because the roots are your friend in terms of erosion control.
I was thinking higher up than ground level.
Well, then you have a dead stump, and dead stumps are sort of okay, except they might not be the most unsightly things, and the more dead wood laying around, the more carpet rants you invite to the neighborhood. Even though woodpeckers would like it, people who live in a wooden house might not like it.
And typically, when they say ground level, it's really not into the dirt, it's usually a couple of inches.
It's simply low.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not gonna dull your saw by cutting right into the ground. Good question, though, very good question. Mr. Mansfield, you had a comment, a question?
No.
Ms. Laporte?
I just think creeping juniper is probably a good idea.
So there's a vote in that direction?
Covering the ground surface against erosion.
Yeah, I think that's a good valid thought. This is such a specialized area, such a special part of town, I think it would be good to just look around and see what else is thriving there. Holly came up too. Holly does well in acid soils, like places like this, and typically it would take more than a lifetime, or 2 or 3, to get tall enough to be a threat to anything. But continue to think out loud, shoot from the hip a little bit here. Creeping juniper would never obstruct the view.
That's true.
It would.
And I was also thinking maybe another form of ground cover, something that has some color there already, or something like, myrtle,
Yeah.
like shade.
That's accepted,
But-
you know.
that kind of thing to just keep the ground covered.
Yeah.
So that's what you want to do.
As you start down the hill, you have there's a kind of huckleberry and just more white pines as you go down. So you get to the very bottom, you get a little bit of sweet pepper
Yeah.
in the very bottom.
Huckleberry is a nice dry slope shrub that
Yes.
does well,
Blueberry.
and it has wildlife value too, and human value too, sure. So,
They'd certainly be receptive to anything like that.
any further comments from our staff on this? Dr. Scaliger?
No, I've been down there, and most of the growth down there is pine with a few small hardwoods growing up underneath, so I wouldn't look for anything that's already there as a substitute for holly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think then what we would be looking at is a motion to approve a minor modification to the existing plan. And the details of which would include the removal of the trees as described, the retention of the stumps in the roots in the ground as described, and the addition of an appropriate number of plantings of the species as described just now in our discussion. Is there any concern or objection to that? I would entertain a motion to approve the minor modification as per our discussion of the last moment or two.
So moved.
Can I get a second? I'll do a second. Further discussion? Hearing none? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? We have a 4-0 approval of this minor modification. If there's any small questions related to species or anything, I'm sure our agent can help you with that.
More than happy to. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you.
Have you two guys met?
Oh,
A while ago, long while ago,
All right.
it's not recent.
Oh.
Probably for the last 10 minutes.
See you all, thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you later.
Bye, Paul.
Bye, Paul.
Bye, Chuck.
See you.
Okay. Again, we do not have our guest from the Evanston project here yet. While we have a little bit of I will call it leisure time, I think it would be just helpful all around if our visitor here introduced himself to the rest of the board. Probably not everyone knows you yet, even though Lon mentioned things earlier. You're interested in becoming a member, or I would say potentially associate member of the board,
Yes.
the commission, and we'd like to know a little bit more about, the why and the how, sort of rehearsing for what you might say to the selectmen.
So basically, just, I learned about the commission and the general mission of it from Frank a couple weeks ago, and I just really liked the idea of it. I'm a bit of a naturalist myself, and I was preparing to out on the trails like 5 days a week minimum, and it started occurring to me, somebody has to maintain these things, somebody has to actually care about it. So I figured I'd try to see if I can fit in and be in any way involved in that. I don't know the first thing about conservation in terms of what you guys all just did a moment ago, but I'm willing to learn that. And in the meantime, I'm prepared to do the physical labor side of it.
Well,
getting out there and maintaining the trails.
Interest is the first thing, and you say a little bit of background, personal knowledge too. The good thing about our procedures, et cetera, is that there's no shortage of curriculum and guidelines and things, largely online, but there's other means of education too. And if one were to become, say, an associate member, we've had this happen a number of times very successfully. People have attended meetings and just simply absorbed the process, and things become a little more familiar. But we are doing our best to be active in how we manage our properties now, and you just said some magic words, maintaining trails and things.
Yes, I've taken notes on that.
Yeah. Mr. Mansfield, Mr. Heel have been very active in these things, and the more the better. So, interest and willingness to learn, I think that would resonate with the Board of Selectmen as well. And, delighted to have you do.
One of the probably sure things, I mean, Laura's the one who pushed me to do it.
Yeah. Well, there's another selectman here too at the moment. You might like to hear. So that's a good start. So, and these two people here can point you to any number of additional, just call it resources for getting oriented. And one can spend a lifetime getting more and more oriented. That's what we're trying to do. But it starts with the interest. So,
Yeah, I can pick up things like the procedures and the laws and stuff like that. That's my degree is actually criminal justice, but it's also law. So the idea of the stuff that you're doing here is actually extremely interesting to me.
So, I'm sorry, what was the degree in?
My degree is in criminal justice, now I have another one in project management.
Well, those are useful. Project management is useful no matter what you do, and criminal justice introduces you to the law.
Yeah, at least half of that was law, like constitutional law, but it gives me the idea of procedures.
Yeah, there's always a correct process. We do our best to follow that. So again, thank you. As we get ready for our next visitors, I know there's a couple discussions here about certificates for compliance. Frank, maybe you could orient us to the 200 Indian Head Street one.
200 Indian Head Street was built in 2018. It was basically a group of houses built by Don Ellis down behind where Mr. Woodward used to live.
The former Corbeil's property, I think it was, at one time. Yeah.
And it was built by Ed Johnson, who's known to us. I contacted the owners, current owners, to find out when they were going to request a CFC, since it's been 5 years. 5 years. Sorry, and the order of conditions had expired. And I got a call from Ed Johnson, who said they were ready to have a CFC. I noted that they needed a certification from the engineer. He obtained that. Actually, it had been written for some time and just was sitting.
Okay.
So they applied for the certificate, and I went down and looked at the lay of the land. Everything was vegetated. The posts at the 50-foot buffer are up. Some of the erosion control is still there. In fact, it all looked good, and so I would recommend you grant them the certificate.
Well, to launch then, that discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve and issue a certificate of compliance for 200 Indian Head Street, map 47, of Brookside Realty, DEP number SC175-0699. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400. That's approved. We seem to have paperwork right here. And in a similar manner, we have a request for a certificate of compliance for 85 High Street. We would entertain a summary of that, if we may.
85 High Street was, an order of conditions was given for a septic system repair. It was in jurisdiction. The order of conditions expired, so I contacted the owner. I'm not sure she's the owner. Doesn't Mr. Sace still have something
That
to do
was
with
a Sace property. I don't know if it still is.
Anyway,
Mr. Al Sace, I think, at one time.
anyway, I contacted her, and she contacted her engineer, who happens to be George Collins, and he provided a certification. I went down to look at it. It looks like it should. It's vegetated. The erosion control is still up after all this time. So I would recommend that you approve the CFC.
Hearing that, the Chair would entertain a motion to approve and issue a certificate of compliance for 85 High Street, with former DEP file number SC175-0734. Do I hear a motion? In a second?
Okay.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? 400. It's approved. And we have an item to sign for that. As we move this down, I sense from the people who've joined us in this room, we will be ready in just a very few moments to hear from Mr. Nicholas Locke, Hanson Troop 34 Eagle Scout project proposal. And some of our earlier appointments tonight were canceled or postponed, so there'll be plenty of time to give this the attention it deserves. And in fact, since I think we all have handouts on this, we can work on this at the same time. Happy to have any discussion of this from you folks, of this written proposal we have. And it does seem like, and that shouldn't be one of our members can particularly speak about this, the beneficiary of this proposed project would be this commission, since the project would be on commission land. But why don't we let you discuss it and invite Mr. Mansfield to add in any thoughts or comments he has about this. Simply what you'd like to do and why you think it would be a good thing. So, it seems like a very good thing. I also want to welcome our Scoutmaster Troop 34, Mr. Marcus Flynn, and so any combination of folks who may want to speak about this, we are delighted to have. We can certainly quote from the written proposal if you do.
So I met with, Nick and his dad down at the town forest, so, we discussed it, so, Nick, you and I talked about this already, so if you just wanna.
Maybe you can have a seat right at that table. They're very comfortable chairs.
Talk about. We'll see you again.
So, welcome.
So you wanna tell us what it is you're going to do?
We're happy to see what you say, that you're going to add a boardwalk to an area of the Bay Circle Trail, right? Let me see.
So I would like to perform some upgrades and clean up on the Bay Circuit Trail in the Veterans Memorial and Forest. And I would like to clean up the trail along with the picnic area, just off the trail along the pond.
Ah, yes. I think I know that area, Dave. Is that where it's a sort of a primitive camping area?
It is, yeah.
That's good. We see here this list of materials, there's list of supplies, tools, and I think it's correct to say you don't need any permits. We actually, when projects are proposed near wet areas like this commission has a blanket notice of intent to cover it. And if Mr. Mansfield would facilitate that, if anyone thought it was wise, just for the information of the public, we have signs that we can put up that are already made.
You
That would help.
have another one of them, right?
Yeah, we have like 5.
I'll get it for you.
And you'll be getting help from team, maybe some of the other scouts or your family.
Yep.
Well, we wanted to build a little bit of a boardwalk across that area, right? Just past the bridges there now.
This area, right now, it has sticks.
Right,
Oh,
right. And you want to thin them out and put some nice fresh tree wood down there, correct?
Yep.
that would be better than the sticks, wouldn't it?
And, you were going to model that out similar to the ones that we have further along in the trail, is that correct?
Yep.
And it's located just past the bridge that's there now, right? That's the place going.
Yeah. But it's interesting, I tell you, probably some of you already know, that whole section of the Bay Circuit Trail, that has been receiving attention from the Boy Scouts for probably something more like 25 years. Because when I was an assistant scoutmaster, there were several other Eagle Scout projects along to put up benches and to put up wood deck houses and other things. So this is a welcome continuation of that interest. I would like to entertain a motion, unless there's additional new things, either from your family or your friends or your scoutmaster, to approve with enthusiasm the Eagle Scout project as proposed by Mr. Nicholas Locke.
So,
There's something that I just want to add to it.
Oh, please do.
The version of the proposal that you guys received
Mm-hmm.
is a little bit dated with the changes that were made to it.
Okay.
This is the new version.
Yeah, the new version there. We also wanted to add, replacing, benches that are in that old camping area that we're cleaning up.
Okay.
This is on your right as you go in there, is that correct? Is there something else?
Yeah, if you go to the right, go along the trail, with a little offshoot that goes towards the waterfront.
Yes.
And there's 2 old benches
Old benches, 25-year-old benches.
that they look like they were pioneered together. They have they're old, like logs, 2 pieces of log with a bench on it.
Yeah.
He has pictures of that in his binder over there.
Okay. For the record, those are locust logs and slabs. It was harvested from the town forest itself. And because it's locust, it did more or less last for this amount of time. But if you're thinking of replacing those, is that what is being thought of?
Yeah.
after 25 years, I'm sure they need it now.
So we're going to build, well, the boardwalk and the benches.
What would the benches be made out of?
Nick, do you wanna tell them what you made out of, or?
There's a lot of down trees already, so.
So we're going to cut the down trees and use those to make the benches.
Well, if it's good sound wood and installed properly, that sounds like a good idea. So we look forward to that as well. Again, the functionality of that small camping area is, it serves as a primitive camping area, whether it's for the scouts or anyone else using the forest. But I know from experience, because I've been working on the Bay Circuit Trail for about 25 years myself, lots of people who hike the trail like to have the opportunity or the option of camping in little informal areas like this. They're not looking to buy a night in a motel, because we don't have any motels, and other details like that. So it sounds good, and we had a motion made to accept with enthusiasm this project as proposed, and do I hear a second? Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
I just have one.
Oh, discussion.
Did you have some, sort of a time frame on when you might start?
May 6th and May 7th.
So quite soon, that's good.
Okay.
Hopefully before we get too many bugs.
That's all I have.
Okay, very good to know. So let's, again, move to the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? 4-0. We are very happy to approve.
Good job.
And
Thank you.
you may start. It's a little dark right now, might want to wait till tomorrow. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much.
We are open, though, to any further communications as you go through the project. If we need to know, maybe whether it's through Mr. Mansfield or through the office here, just let us know how it's going. Or if you see one of us at the Shaw's or something like that. But we look forward to good progress. Mr. Lynn, we thank you for your ongoing, shall we say, coordination of all these good projects and good people.
My pleasure.
So,
Nick, will you, make sure we get a copy of the updated project, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
very good. Thanks again. We,
Could you please get a signature on the sign-off page, please?
look, I haven't seen one of these for a while.
Mine
So,
should be there.
is this the current one right here, or the original right there? Okay, that's what we want to sign, the original. So, Mr. Mansfield, let me look at this and see if, there's beneficiary approval.
Yes.
You want to flip a coin, or would you like me to sign this? Okay. Sure. We like to share responsibility.
You have my phone number, don't you?
Yeah.
So just give me a call.
Every meeting, part of our agenda is project management updates, and Mr. Mansfield always coordinates those updates. So we consider this close to that. Yeah. Please don't sign the unit or anything else.
Mr. Mansfield, you mentioned about, having the, being able to get these anchors for us for the
Yep.
bridge.
I have some.
Yeah, we've been, we meaning Mr. Mansfield, but others, we've been very active in improving trails all over town, and this is now pretty much a standard approach, and it's been proven to work well. So. Okay.
Yeah, just give me a call. I'll drop down there and somewhere.
Very good. Here we are. You're on your way.
Excellent. Not gonna be tripping walking through there.
Or slipping on wet sticks that look like beavers dropped from there. So we've done that. We've done that. We're,
Thanks, Dick.
we look forward to everything like that, and, may there be more. It's not 8 o'clock yet, but we are aware, I believe, that an item on our agenda scheduled for 8 p.m. is relates to the proposed project on Zero County Road, but there was a request by the applicant to continue to our next meeting, and as we have planned, it would be May 3rd at 7, they've requested 7:30 p.m.
We have a couple things ahead of it, so.
So, yeah, there will be other things earlier that evening, too. It'll be a busy night. Entertain a motion to continue the hearing as described here to May 3rd, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. per request of the applicant.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. And all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? 400. Continued to May 3rd. See you around, folks. Thanks again for being here.
Yeah, no.
Thank you.
Upcoming meeting dates, except that?
Just one thing.
Oh, yes.
She actually was asking how she could become a member of this committee.
Oh,
You know, if there's an opening.
well, first of all, an informal chat like this would be fine. We, this gentleman right here is also interested. We have, besides having the 5 seated members that were appointed by the selectmen, we have several associate members roles, which are a good place to begin. Associate members, the easiest way to put it, they have all the rights and privileges of an appointed member of the commission, except voting. When we do formal things like vote on applications or other decisions. But associate members are always welcome, and we actually have one associate member now. We are about to have another one. I think it would be good to clarify if there are any more slots than that. I know there was probably a little more confusion than there needs to be about how many associate members we're allowed to have. But we have had other people who simply have interest along the lines, just start attending our meetings. And whether it's regularly or just as time permits, there's no shortage of bits and pieces of our management jobs that can be assisted with. We'd be delighted to sort of pursue whatever route you like. If you were to apply for, let's say, membership or associate membership, the selectmen have a form where volunteers apply for whatever the thing is. There's many, many ways people volunteer. And you can get a copy of that form from the town administrator's office. And just might want to do that, look that over, and see how you feel. Thank you kindly. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for your interest.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Very good. You're very welcome. Conservation property status is the next thing on here. I take it that would be things like ownership and paperwork and...
We have a meeting on Monday, the 24th, with town council to talk about getting a deed for the water department transfer up at Area 5. And I've also broached the subject of getting a deed for the fields up on Bonnie Hill and for the sleeper property for which we don't yet have a deed. I'm also going to talk with the town council about the other 40 properties that don't have deeds. What we're actually looking for is not the fee. We're looking for care and custody. In most of those cases, town meeting gave this to conservation, but unless the select board executes it, it's not final.
So the town meeting voters, expressed their will for us to have care and custody, but we need a document from a selectman with a signature and it's recorded.
Yeah, we need them to execute that. So that's what's going to happen on Monday, the 24th. Anybody will participate, it's going to be a Zoom call.
Yeah, I think I will join you for that. This represents a long-term but essential project. We've learned the hard way in this town that if you don't have deeds that back up or validate other actions, sometimes unintended things happen, like property sold out from under us, etc. So it's the right thing to do. We appreciate your staying on top of that, Frank, and may the progress continue. May we get some things truly finalized. Speaking of properties, and specific ones, Eversource property on Corner Equipment in Winter Street. Are there updates to be had on that?
I have been in contact with Eversource in their property management department, and they have told me that they are going to process it through their property management, and once that is done, they will come back to us to make the gift. So we will then own almost all of Little Cedar Swamp.
That is, I think, a real accomplishment because since Europeans began to acquire the swamp and land around it, it's probably been 2 centuries since it was managed as one entity, even though nature manages it as one thing. So we look forward to that progress. In general, other property management, there probably a few updates we've had.
Yeah,
Was there?
do we need a vote on that West Washington Street property, or, I know it's a ways away before the meeting.
Let's be specific, and should we get that? Oh, I know what you're talking about, but
Yeah.
was it one?
The old, was it the Morse sawmill?
More.
More.
The Morse sawmill property?
It was a portion thereof.
There's 2, I have one of the deeds here, if I found one. There's another deed too, a smaller. But we need a commission vote to pursue this.
Let's be clear too on some other things that we have learned. These are, if a pair of parcels, including one that's vanishingly small, maybe even completely underwater, that straddle Full Meadow Brook north of West Washington Street. It's the footings of and the immediate area of the old dam that used to form an impoundment that provided water power for the Moore sawmill. You can look at some of the 1800 maps and it shows the pond. Earlier information we had said that, somewhat to our surprise, the ownership of those parcels was the Hanson Housing Authority. We can speculate, but it wouldn't be probably useful to talk about that. But what we have learned recently, and I'm trying to remember which one of you told me this, it now, per the assessors records, it actually is simply town of Hanson property.
Yeah, and indeed, it specifies the housing had used it in the day of 1995, that it's reversed to the town.
So the title or the ownership record is that it's simply town of Hanson property.
Which means we don't have to go to the housing authority to,
Well, as has happened a number of times appropriately, it could be proposed now that we prepare all the necessary steps to ask the selectmen and town meetings to perhaps this fall, October town meeting, to convey that property to the care and custody of the Conservation Commission. It's right smack at the, access point for the Palmetto Brook, 115 acres. Now, this is just the upstream tip of it, so to speak. Makes a lot of sense to this commissioner, what the rest of you think.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Yeah. It also, and just my own little vision here, we put some time and effort and funding into the, a little stone, crushed stone walkway from the parking area over towards the brook. It would seem to me that we could aim to have an informational sign of whatever size and design, we've seen a lot of these now, that it could now speak from the standpoint of an owner of not only the brook but also the dam site, which is across the street there. And nice to talk about things that you own. It gives you confidence in the fact that there's a unified voice speaking for all those areas. So, would someone care to make a motion for this commission to pursue in the near future care and custody of, and I don't know what to say about the property. There's a lot number, a map number and lot number
I have that one,
for the one on the upstream side.
for the larger, too. I don't have that one.
So then, should we just say for the upstream property, the parentheses S, at the Moore Sawmill site on West Washington Street?
Yeah, so moved.
I heard a motion to do that. Do I have a second? Yes, we have a second. Further discussion? Hearing none? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? 4-0-0. The pursuit shall commence. And really, no one else would even dream of wanting that. Not only is it completely wet, sometimes almost completely flooded by floods, but it's dripping with poison ivy. It just, and thorns and things like that.
Have a great day.
But we consider it a terrific resource area. Which is, it's historic. And historic, absolutely.
Well, you know, your brother could wax poetic about it. That's one of his favorite subjects.
Yeah, he would sit here and tell stories till midnight.
But Moore's Forge is one of his favorites.
Yeah, especially the part about where the guy was working in the mill part of it and almost cut one of his fingers off one day. This is probably 150 plus years ago. And it was annoying, so he took a chisel and finished the job, wrapped it up and went back to work.
Heard that story.
There you go. Property management in other areas. We seem to have a nice
We've had a
word program here.
plethora of activities. So Dandel has got the boulders placed at Smitty's, except we forgot about doing the one at the split that's right off, right-hand side of Indian Street.
And you have been or will be pursuing discussion.
So I talked to him today.
Yeah. And for our records, these boulders will pretty much finish or come close to finishing the job of defining the right-of-way the town actually has. Vehicles over the years have taken liberties with making it wider, but we actually only have a right-of-way that varies from 20 to somewhat wider in some spots, 20 feet. And the other property is covered by the USDA deed, on which the Edgewood Bogs came to us. We're not supposed to have vehicles on those other areas. And you spoke with the highway surveyor about this, Mr.
And he wants us to block that off too. It's the problem for the plows. He doesn't want them plowing all that.
They plow it too wide. Right. One other thing this will do too is it will, well, what I think is planned is where the lay of the property lines allow, there will be some wider spots that will allow cars to safely pass.
Right.
In two directions.
And there are some there. So it looks good what they've done. I talked to Dan today and he forgot about it, so he's going to take care of it.
Because we've had vehicles go everywhere vehicles can go, and it can't be the Wild West of vehicle parking. we've got to narrow it down.
So that's in good shape, and I'll say that, he's good about getting it done.
Good.
So, he'll do that, he's finished the stairs at Bonnie Hill Lane. Something that's done.
It looks like this, except the
I have another
handrail is
picture
there.
that shows the rail, so I can send you that one.
Okay.
I had a question about Smitty's though. What's the status on the cedar trees?
I think we should go ahead and order them. And, they had inquired not too long ago whether we planned to follow through on our initial ordering ideas. And I think we should do it.
I have the answer here.
Is this a quote?
This is the one that we received last time, and I had it it's still in the system, the accounting system.
Okay, it's still live.
Yep.
And
I would just have to double check it, I think.
Okay.
Make sure the price is still the same. The two
Yeah.
ones.
So Ron can double check and make sure the price we got last year is still the same.
Can we just place an order?
Yeah, well, yeah, we just send out the warrant.
Yes.
Is this the one you
Just gonna have you sign it off, so that she can.
But, you had a question about,
Is that the one you have to go pick up?
these would be shipped from Maryland.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Remember,
All right, yep.
the nursery down there.
Yep, all right.
Incidentally, there's another project in town
yeah.
that Frank and I were talking about where, or maybe, I don't know, someone and I were talking about, there is a need for an approved project to complete mitigation by funding the actual acquisition of some trees. So what I was thinking is go back to this vendor and not the same order, but a separate order, parallel, place an order for whatever dollars worth of trees match the mitigation need for that other project.
Oh, yeah, right.
And I recently walked the bog and have very specific ideas about where we would place both this number of trees and another small batch.
So both batches would be planted in the same area.
We would not be confined to where we put the second batch. The first batch has to be more or less near one of the approved actions that we took to sort of reopen Indian Head Brook. And so again, I had very specific thoughts about that. The number of trees again, Lon, then the order for that is, trying to think about how many there were. 25? 100. We can do a lot of planting. The good news is it's not difficult to plant things over there. It's mostly sand and gravel, and peat under it, fairly soft. And so with an auger or a few other tools like that, it can go in. And we'll have to have a work day once we know the delivery.
Seems like we'll need to have somebody marking where they're gonna go and then
Yeah.
work on the
What we've learned is don't put out the markers too soon, because people like to collect them. And that's inconvenient.
We have a little bit of a list of volunteers now.
Absolutely. Let's milk that list and proceed.
So we have an issue at Smith House out. Somebody dumped yard waste and construction debris in the parking lot. I'd say maybe a small dump truck full or a couple of pickups full.
Crimes continue.
And I'm not sure what to do about them. They're not blocking the parking lot. They drove right up to where the rocks are and dumped them right on the rocks. Right beside the rocks.
It's yard waste.
Made it easy for you, huh?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's, a couple of pickups of yard waste, brush, not trash. And then there's another small load of concrete, broken up concrete. I'm not sure what to do about it. I could talk to Jameson and see if he can send food down there and pick it up or something.
We've done that before. There has been a wide variety of wastes found. Sometimes it's demolition debris, sometimes it's yard trimmings and waste, and sometimes it's who knows what.
Well, this is not trash. It's yard waste and some concrete.
I would consult with one Mr. Shave, Jameson Shave, and see if is in a position to simply
Amazing.
help us.
My concern is that, I mean, there's a fair amount of it, but it doesn't look too bad, but people are gonna see it there and it's gonna grow.
Well, it simply, disposed of materials attracts more disposed of materials. It's just such a great spot, and someone got away with it, I bet I could too.
So, all right, I'll talk to him and see what happens. Otherwise, of course, we'll have to.
Yeah, let's use him as our first consultant.
If there's a place to put it, I don't mind helping move it.
Well, it's
Salt,
Either place to put it.
you need a, like a dump truck to put it in, get it out of there.
and we know a department has dump trucks.
Well,
and
yeah,
things
but
like
it's
that.
just a lot of it. I mean, we could put it in the trailer, maybe several loads.
A few loads.
So see what Jameson says, and then we'll take it from there.
I wonder if we should be, notifying the police when we find these problems, so that we at least have a
Just
record
something to note of it.
of the police
I
report.
did it before, for Fort Meadow, and I just went down to the police station, he just,
Well, I
Well,
realize they're not
that's
gonna
probably-
jump on.
Why don't we keep our own log
We need a record.
and
right.
commence now, and maybe it can be retroactive to the extent we actually know these things? Because it could and should include not only what it is and where it is and when it was discovered, but also the fact of our reporting to the police department when we did. So it would cross-check with their records. And the more we accumulate in terms of records of things that have happened, the more we build a case for working towards solutions. Because every one of these disposal actions, whether it's free labor or whether it's town labor, has a cost to it. And don't we all hate that?
Well,
There is,
they're restricted to large quantities, or, I mean, because I'm picking trash up all the time.
well,
We don't want to.
that's a good question, very good question. Oh, a candy bar wrapper, put it in the log. I'm not sure that would rise to that level. But I would say things that required vehicles to get them there. Maybe that's not a good definition, but tires,
I'm
furniture,
working on the tire disposal issue, too.
because the tires get disposed of at State Street Range quite often, right?
Yes, they do, that seems to be the tire dump.
I would kind of classify it as stuff, this isn't the right way, but stuff that is brought in for the purpose of disposal, not stuff that you just happen to have.
Not casual litter, but intentional, criminal disposal.
Dumping.
There is a town bylaw that says, and you can read it on the front of the gate at the transfer station, that says illegal disposal of materials here or anywhere in town, a lot of money.
Well, we have them, we're posted now.
Right, and we're doing that. But I think a log is a good idea,
Yeah.
because there's nothing like data to support a proposed.
We have one police report this week for the vehicle driving
Oh.
around on the,
Okay, well, let's wrap up the waste disposal first. I'm interested in what Lon and Frank think. What's the best way to easily and conveniently create this log and keep it? It could be on paper, it could be electronic, it could be both, it could be, I don't know what.
Well, I can just keep a log if you want me to.
Well, I'm just
well,
saying.
you actually are.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Keep these.
But this is a log of a bunch of other things too. I would like a illegal waste disposal log that has a title on it at the top. It looks like that.
Certainly can flag it on this or transfer it to
Yeah.
a separate page.
Yeah. But without me dictating, I think I would like to see that take shape. I just am not the one who has the computer and
Okay.
things like that.
Well, I'm the one that finds the stuff, so I've either got to coordinate with Lon or just keep the log myself.
Why don't you guys talk, and whatever you do, we'll take that as a good start.
Okay.
Now,
Oh, our potential associate member has an idea.
Just a thought regarding what you guys are all talking about. It might not be a bad idea to what you originally said, to file a police report just on the grounds that if a person were to be found, like caught red-handed dumping similar material who had already been dumping, there would already be a police report, and they could be facing 2, 3, 4, 5 charges instead of just one.
Multiple.
Without having filed a police report, they would have effectively gotten away with everything prior to the one you caught in the act.
Yeah.
I agree with the concept, but when I went to the police station, they weren't interested in filing a report. They just logged in and there was trash found.
Is that,
Well-
Whether you private citizen or
Finish your thought.
a committee of the town, they might listen quite a little bit more.
Well, it wasn't that they weren't listening, it's just that they logged it.
They're fully aware, they know who you are, right? You-
Yeah, well, I
You have
know.
your conservation hat on.
So that would mean that then they'd have a record of it then, so that if somebody were to, say you just were walking by and you saw somebody dumping, you'd be able to go back and say, oh, well, now you're potentially being investigated for the other 5 that the police already have on record with time and date. It's just a thought.
Yeah, so part of the log, I think truly must include our specific action of reporting it to the police and when we did it, how we did it, the, specific date and time on the record, so that we can correlate it with their records, or if we say that we reported all these things too, they can check out, oh, yeah, they did, how about that? And it will, I think, bolster whatever arguments we may end up making in the future about maybe cameras or something else. There is also a history, if anyone ever chose to dig out, which I would, of sometimes an associate member, I think Bob Dylan has done this, finding trash at that location with name in it. And the police made the person responsible. They came back and were forced to take care of it. I don't know if they were fined. They ought to have been. But I think enforcement of the littering laws, littering/other disposal laws, we ought to be part of the team.
Okay,
So-
talked a lot about it.
Yeah.
And so you think we had a report about a car going down?
We have a trespassing incident here too. Frank, you were the one who the...
Well, I got a call, was it yesterday? Yeah.
Yes, it was very
yesterday.
recently.
That 2 young folks were driving around on the Bonnie Hill Meadows in a SUV. And the woman who called made a video of it.
No.
And so I notified the police. They went up there just by the water tank, I think. I saw them coming out. I know that they didn't see anything. So I went up there and I walked back to the fields, and there were, whoever they were had gone. But at least I know that there's something in the police log for that event. I gave a copy of the video to Phil. He looked at it. We couldn't get a license plate because the car was too far away. But it's something that we need to be aware of, because apparently they're coming down from a house on High Street.
Well, I can add to that, Frank. Dave and I were there later today. We think they did not come from a house on High Street. We think there was just enough room, unfortunately, because we saw tracks, to drive between one of the trees at the entrance to our property and the large cement block that's there.
Yeah, that seems the most likely.
It's a small SUV.
It was a small enough car that would fit.
It was a RAV4.
Oh, that would fit.
Yeah. And
So we need another block.
Yeah, I already talked to Dan about that too.
Okay.
So he said he can get a 4-foot block. And so he's gonna, well, let me know if you find it. He's gonna try to find a 4-footer. If he finds it, he's gonna let me know. If not, he'll meet me there and he'll do something there. So we're gonna make it a 36-inch opening instead.
Yeah. And what if, in this log that we've just now agreed to create, it was a log of illegal disposal, but also illegal, I'll just say, vehicular trespass. That's not a new thing, it's an old thing, it's a repetitive thing. We see it at Smitty's Bog, we see it other places. This is one of the more blatant ones, because the signs are up that say no vehicles. The chains and concrete blocks are there that, if it were bigger, would have prevented it. And they damn well did it anyway. And to get to our conservation property, sometimes they come down the hill from the water tower, sometimes they drive in along the newly constructed trail. And all of that is extremely frustrating, but we have done, and we'll fine tune what we've done to prevent things. This should light a fire under other town bodies to put up locks and chains on their parts of the property. This is just ludicrous. Because every time vehicles drive through fields, you don't know what they're running over. There could be box turtles there, there could be, even though it's early right now, ground nesting birds. They always do damage, and this is always wrong. And I don't know if I could have remained polite if I had actually seen them there. But what I would have done, I would have driven down the blocks and blocked them in until the cops came.
I had that idea myself.
Yeah, because the place they gain access, unless you have a Prius with battery as well, you can drive down that steep hill and you could block it.
Oh, yeah.
It just should not be up us to be the police. But
Well, I'll get with Dan and we'll, close that gap. I realize there might be a problem when we first hit.
yeah, but we cross our fingers and say we hope that 3 blocks is enough, and how it is maybe 4.
I would hate to think that they would be driving down the trail from Pierce Street.
I've seen the tracks.
There's tracks.
Because if somebody's walking along that trail while they're driving along it,
No.
or there's a horse
Scaring us.
using it,
Right.
that's
There is that, but
You
also,
know where they're coming from? They're coming from the food pantry side.
or from the old stone entrance side.
Or from that.
Those places are wide open to the outlaws. But to me, equally bad all this is they're damaging the trail.
Right.
It's meant for people on foot. It's not meant for 4,000-pound vehicles in 4-wheel drive.
Right.
So,
I'll fix that one. And, so otherwise, everything's coming along well. Phil and I met with, Appalachian Mountain Club, trail guys today, and they're set to start in first.
this would be the boardwalk and related things between the new stairway here and the hospital fields. They're using the 10-foot wide easement that Ken Anderson surveyed for us a few months back.
That's done. The meadows are cleared. I think everybody knows that. We need to do repair work on the trail. Water sheets across there near the culvert, so we need to open up that waterway on the uphill side.
Or which property are you talking
What's
about?
the Barn Hill?
Fine Hill.
Culverts are.
Oh, those culverts.
Water sheets across there. It's coming off.
Oh, yeah,
up the hill.
yeah. between the culverts, the Danilo South, there is surface flow at times that creeps down from above, from the west side of the trail to the east side, because it's down there. We need to tweak a little bit the waterway and the berm or bank thereof to keep the water flowing towards the culverts.
I'll just go up there with a hoe and a shovel.
Yeah, I think those are the right tools.
And, see how, let's do it as minimal and see if it works and kind of tweak it. I'm gonna get so we can do it then. And the other project I wanted to do is, open up that they reopen that walkway on the bottom. It's Smitty's first road on the right by the kiosk.
When you say reopen, you mean repair so that it's
So you
inviting?
can walk there again.
Yeah, that is the old bog, we talked about the bog dike road that, number one, for 10 years no one's mowed, although we had, Mr. Bill Scott did mow it for us once, but I think it was a little bit much for his equipment. And there are low spots and, not very inviting walking spots there.
Well, I'll start chipping away at it. Do. So that's, there's been a lot going on, so I think that's so much time.
Yeah, well, there's a lot happening, and it's good stuff. I just want to say, welcome to our new visitor here. You may be aware that all the people who had hearings tonight on projects asked to be continued to the meeting in May.
I get that, but I love visiting you guys and listening to you anyway.
Well,
Is that entertaining?
well, we
Seriously, the commitment you guys have, the passion you have for protecting this town, and you know, you don't get paid for it except for the feelings of service, so I'm proud of you all.
well, thank you. Well, sometimes we see a deer and we get paid by that. It's sort of like rewarding. Lon, there is some things on the second page too, right? We're working through this.
Oh, yeah, the
It's
invoices.
longer than usual, agenda.
Those are all the
Um,
invoices.
open space acquisition is the next thing here. We've actually briefly touched on that. There's no new actions that I'm aware of. It's just sort of consolidating past acquisitions at the moment. And there are invoices to sign. 1, 2, 3,
There's a lot of them.
5, 6, 7, 8. So number up your signature hands here, and we'll do that.
I'll do that, and then last name, do you want to sign this, but then, like the proposal,
This invoice is a proposal.
yeah, the authorized, the quote.
Oh, what I'm being handed by a staff here is, there is the paperwork that it fully completes the work that we were just speaking about for placing boulders along the roadway edge at Smitty's Bog, and authorizing that is a good thing, so I believe I will do that right now.
Do you want to sign that?
No, there's just one spot. Anything else in this category?
Yeah,
Or every?
three of them. We got them after we approved them.
Okay. Yeah, this basically gives the vendor proof that their work was.
There's a lot of them. It's been 5 weeks.
Okay.
And I think you guys are okay just to
Why
sign
are they
the
two
first
signatures
page.
and one say date?
Yeah. I think you're fine with just that. We already got the invoice, so.
You'll notice the way I'm putting dates here. Okay, invoices.
I asked Gina, you guys are okay just to sign the first page if you want.
Really?
Yep.
We are being told everyone will be interested in this.
Probably does. Yep.
See, what's the date?
Yep.
That's correct. We only have to sign the top of it, the first page.
We what?
Only have to sign the first page.
Now you tell us.
Now we'll be done before midnight.
There's a lot of them, so you might be okay. The first one's for the mill. You have to go down to
So it's right at the right part.
Okay, so next week.
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna check that out. Okay.
Well, because we didn't meet in early April, things accumulated, and we've been so busy.
In 5 weeks, right?
And it's got a real it's done.
Frank, would you want to summarize, our very brief meeting with the selectmen the other night? Because, you and I were the only ones there besides, Sharon, and Dave might not know the nature of the discussion. Gentlemen,
So the whole town.
when you have a minute.
Okay, yep. And what is that called? What? The boardwalk? Oh, that's we're getting to work somewhere.
There's
One meeting, guys.
There is, yeah. We realize that's a product of discussion, and we greatly appreciate that, but, I don't know if I can write and talk at the same time, so I've asked Frank if he can just give the very short version, which I'm not good at, of our little chat with the selectmen.
Last Tuesday, we were asked to come before the selectmen to talk about the articles that we have proposed. One was for money for Phragmites control at Smitty's, and the other was for funding for the conservation fund. The board is obviously very concerned about closing on the budget, and so they didn't have a problem with the Phragmites article, but they were very concerned about the conservation fund. And in the end, they asked us to cut our request in half and perhaps ask for the second half in October. We agreed, and that's the way it will be presented at town meeting. So we're asking for $20,000 in the conservation fund.
tried to not cut it in half. I tried to negotiate higher even after the cut, but it was hard.
A little bit fruitless.
So,
Yeah.
cut in half.
Two other things. One is the Phragmites discussion. The selectman asked the town administrator, something about, isn't there a Phragmites account with money still in it? We explained that was not for the Smitty's Lodge property, that was for the Camp Kewanee property. And it's a multi-year project, and the remaining money in the Kewanee Phragmites is going to be needed for Phragmites control at Kewanee. So do not mistake that for money that, we're not asking for duplicate of that. The other thing is, we explained that, even though we haven't spent down all of, the $40,000 we got last year for this, I said, they gave a figure, and I don't remember what it was, but we said, we've committed and encumbered virtually all of this, and we have a lot of active projects right now that are ongoing, and that money is intended to be used as planned. It's not like there's a surplus that we are sitting on for the end of the year. There's still several months to go in this fiscal year, and we're still working on our work. And
I think that was clear.
we tried to, but I think whether it's the selectmen or anyone on the street, we need them to know, we don't ask for money just because we like asking for money. We've got work to do, and we intend to do it, and we are doing it. And that's all there is to say about that. So, money from the sky.
But I'm wondering if next time we need to be, like, list some of the things we plan to do, like even just the lawyer, like legal fees, or whatever it is to file the
Yeah.
deeds.
I think it's basically a spending and action plan, because I know in the corporate world, every month, there's reports that say, budgeted, expended, remaining, what's spent year to date.
So we have the numbers.
Well, we just haven't presented it in a corporate way. We have numbers, and we've got information, we're way ahead of where we used to be with reporting this up, but we haven't put it into a form that takes away all the questions. Yeah, but
I would suggest when we push it October, that we have a list, that maybe it's not in the warrant, but a backup saying, this is what we paid last year. But we haven't, we didn't submit it.
it's one thing to grasp it ourselves and to have the information in our hands. It's another thing to put it in presentable form so that it's looked at and absorbed and understood just like that. And that's why businesses that are successful do these things all the time with internally.
Yeah.
Well, we got to be a good part of this business and take our information from our department and present it in a way that leaves no questions.
How would you like to present it? I mean, I gave you one sheet that showed the entire breakdown for the rest of the year. That's not sufficient?
That's what I'm saying,
We have those numbers.
I have in my mind a format that we used to use at Charles River Laboratories. This is approaching that, but it isn't quite in that format yet.
Well, then you gotta show it to me.
I know. It's just that I've been out.
I can't do it.
I grasp that.
Oh, we have it.
All I'm saying is that, along with all the other things we're doing, continuous improvement is called for. And I'm sorry if it sounds like frustrating and a never-ending request. I know we're all busy doing things with our hands and feet and boots and stuff, but probably I'm a victim of having too many hot pans in the fire, and so I don't have the right piece of paper on top of my list at exactly the right time. But I'll be more clear in both what we have and if we need to make it better, be more clear about that too. So, in the meantime, I think we have completed our agenda. Unless there's...
No encore, I'm sorry. You can applaud it, there's no encore.
No, we can just talk about it.
Okay.
I am amazed, it really is.
It's 8:25 p.m. and the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you kindly.
Please, ever.
Thank you.